One of my Own Your Expertise interviews. I'm Emily Crookston, owner and decider of all things at the Pocket PhD. I'm the ghostwriter for Rebels, Renegades, and Mavericks, and I love helping experts with big ideas get those ideas out of their heads and into the hands of their fans. Today, I'm sitting down with Venus Liles. Venus is the founder and managing attorney at Liles Law, and that's her firm. It's a boutique law firm helping entrepreneurs and small business owners start and scale their businesses so they can focus on what matters to them.
As you mentioned, I'm Venus. I have my own firm. I've also, worked with bigger companies and still do. I'm a legal advisor to SaaS Institute Inc., which is a huge software company out of Cary. And then I also have my own boutique firm, Liles Law, and we help small businesses like you and entrepreneurs all the way from entity setup through, hopefully scaling and growing and achieving all the dreams that you have for your business.
Do you find that a difficult balance? Do you like having both?
It's really been helpful to me because SaaS is so huge. I mean, they're $1 billion global software company. And then my own clients are sometimes really teeny tiny, just like one person out of their garage with a great idea. And so that has been a great balance, not only in a fulfilling way to be able to help the underdog in a lot of instances when they have kind of big law firms on the other side of the negotiations, but also just being able to see that, a lot of the legal issues are similar, but in many ways, like business owners just want to protect themselves. They want to protect their personal families and their, personal accounts, but they also want to protect their business because whether or not it's huge or little, like it's your baby and you just want to make sure that you do right by it. And so that feeling is there regardless of the size of the company, which is cool.
How would you describe your path to becoming an expert?
Just making a lot of mistakes, whether it's seeing the mistakes that I've made or seeing the mistakes other people have made, like that has been a even more impactful learning experience for me than just the traditional path of law school, big firm, small company, small firm. You have a client that you're helping because everyone is so unique. And so in law school, they can teach you like the framework, but how you actually apply it to a client that has its own needs and challenges and risk threshold. That is completely different. And so I mean, in 10 years, I haven't done anything exactly twice, right?
That's one of the concerns people have when they think about going into law. Like, oh, is it just going to be the same thing day in, day out? There's different things you could do sort of within the lane, right?
Yes,
that's easy to switch. But
and that's why I kind of like helping the smaller businesses because I get to converse with them. I get to kind of collaborate with them.
Tell us how you've learned to translate your expertise for others.
I have learned, one, to kind of explain why it's a different language. It's helpful to begin with, like why do we say it this way? Why do we say, not, nevertheless, aforementioned here too, like why do we use those words? And I can share with you why. One of the reasons is because those specific phrases have been found to mean a certain thing in court. So court cases will look at certain, provisions in a contract, for example, because that's what I practice, and they will say, okay, this means this thing, and so we're going to find this way for this particular party. And so lawyers say, okay, now we have some proof that a court will think that this means this thing. And so we're going to put it in the agreement exactly this way. So if this issue comes up and we go to court, we can point to that case law and say, hey, a different court found that this means this thing.
It's cool that you can explain it that way. I really like that explanation. It makes a lot of sense. This is just the way we talk, and this is what triggers certain things in the judge's brain, and that's what we want when we're
that's what we want. We want that thing to get triggered, right? Like if that's the point we're trying to make, we want the judge we want to make it easy for him or her to side with what we want that provision to say. And to have that framework has really helped me be able to translate the legal side, because now I understand the business side of it. And so I know kind of the thoughts and fears and concerns that business owners have. So then when I'm explaining the legal risks and how that ties into those concerns, that just seems to make more sense.
I'm learning from you in this conversation is how practical law really is. I hadn't really thought of it in that way. I thought of it more theory, more, up in the clouds. But,
absolutely.
So it's really practical, in fact.
Yeah, especially what I do. It's super practical.
Yeah.
Because what I do is I make sure sure that I encourage communication between parties, and then we document that. So really the point of any contract is to make sure that whatever you guys have decided is said and in writing, so that down the line, if anybody has a question about it, you can point back to it. And it just helps with the efficiencies of running a business, and reduces the risk of things being interpreted in different ways down the line. What I do is try to help businesses like move forward. And so it's much more practical, and like, what are we going to do to achieve this goal? Let's do it and move forward.
Right. Do you have any guidelines or hard and fast rules for maybe solopreneurs thinking about whether they might need a contract?
Yes. So I personally encourage always having something in writing. I often tell a story about when I was like 10 years old, and I was asking my dad for, a skip it, pretty much like Venus, which is what he used to call me. You always want something, skip it this, skip it that. I'll give you $100 on your 16th birthday and you can buy whatever you want. And I was like, okay, like that sounded cool, because I was 10. So to him, like 16th birthday was forever. And I went and got a piece of paper and I wrote down like, Dad, will promise to give Venus $100 on her 16th birthday. And he signed it. And I kept it. I kept it for 6 years. And on my 16th birthday, I like pulled it out, and he laughed, and he gave me $100, which wasn't, as I wanted like a car on my 16th birthday.
Right. You're like, what about anything?
But I like to tell that story because like I loved my dad. Like I did not distrust him. He had never broken any promises, but like, one, to have it in writing to make sure that he said $100, was that really what he said? Like that seemed like a lot to a 10-year-old. Did he say my 16th birthday or my 60th birthday? Like to just have that in writing, one, to be able to make sure that we were on the same page was a huge, advantageous point. And then, memories fade. Like you might have, you might be on the same page as your business partner, and you agree to everything, but you might not remember what it was that you agreed to 6 years down the line. So in this case, like, I don't think my dad would have lied to me, but if I hadn't ever brought it up and on my 16th birthday I mentioned that, like, would he truly remember? Like, I really don't think he would have remembered it. And so that just kind of serves as a good example for just anytime, you're agreeing to something with somebody, like whether it's a promise, whether I'm going to do this, you do that, like it's just always best to have it in writing. And that almost shows kind of respect for the business relationship. That means that like, I'm serious about this. This means a lot to me. I want to make sure that both of us are taken care of. So let's make sure we put whatever is in our head on paper so that down the line, we don't have as many disagreements about he said, she said sort of stuff. So.
It makes so much sense that, you don't have to think of a contract as being an adversarial thing. And, it's because I don't trust you that I need you to sign this thing, right?
And that you don't want to get into a business relationship without making sure everybody's on the same page. So when you have a contract and you kind of take the time to, perhaps walk them through what the different provisions mean, the client actually feels taken care of as well. Because if there's something that you promised as the service provider that's not in there, then they have a chance to get that in writing too. So it's not meant to be one-sided. It's really meant to be a documentation of what each party is agreeing to so that they have that to refer back to in the future.
Last question. What would you say has helped you the most in learning to own your expertise?
I think realizing that I don't have to know everything has been almost like a comfort to me. So in the beginning of my career, when you're just out of law school, you don't know what you don't know, and you don't know what you're supposed to know. But now 10 years down the line, I'm very comfortable with, telling a client or a friend, like, I don't know the answer to that, but I'm happy to find out for you or point you in the right direction. We will solve this problem together, but I don't have to have it all in my head all of the time. And that just comes with, experience to feel like that's okay to say that, and it's okay to not have all the answers.
Well, it's been really great to sit down with you, Venus. Thank you for this conversation. Would you like to tell people how they can find out more about you?
You can find me on LinkedIn. It's Venus Liles. I think I'm probably the only Venus Liles on LinkedIn. Not there. And if you want to find out more about my firm, it's lileslaw.com. So it's liles-law.com.